So Clos Lanson is a special wine that is coming from a special plot that is located in the center of France, just facing the cathedral. And it is a special plot that has a unique situation. So located in the center of France with a very long story since this plot was here at the 18th century. And it is something very special because we are located in the center of France. We have a very old story and we have a very special climate. Since this plot is in town, we have between 3 and 4 degrees more than in the vineyard that is at 1 kilometer. And it gives a Chardonnay that is really special with a very high level of maturity. When you combine the situation located in the center of France, the chalk that is very pure at this part of Reims, since we are located on a hill that is called Clos Lanson hill, that is a very chalky hill. So when you combine this climate that is so special, this chalk that is very pure, you have a Chardonnay that is growing very quickly, and we are one of the first vintage to begin harvest, since we always begin very early in the season with degrees that are always very high, with high level of maturity and very good level of freshness. So it always gives a Chardonnay that is very well balanced on a special balance, I would say, a very expressive, very generous wine that is always very expressive, very complex, but that never forget to be very clean, elegant, salty, and very voluptuous. So it's a wine that is very, very complete. So it is wine that we began to do in 2006. That we began in 2006 to battle alone. That is to say, the first vintage of Clos Lanson was 2006, but in the story of Lanson, we elaborated many vintages of Clos Lanson that were used in blends of vintage, of gold label from Lanson. But in 2006, with a new owner, Philippe Béjot decided to elaborate a Clos because he thought it would be a great idea because this vineyard was well known to elaborate a very special wine. And we began in 2006, and every year we do a single vineyard with this plot that is so special because even when the vintage is not as famous as the greatest, it's always possible to produce harvest that is always very ripe with a very good sanitary state. So it's always very easy to do a great wine. We decided for this wine to do a fermentation in barrels, barrels that are coming from Burgundy and from Argonne. And we decided to avoid malolactic on this wine, to express a wine that will be very complex and very clean, very elegant and very fresh. So the first vintage we sell now is 2006, a great harvest. This wine has been disgorged in December 2014. That is to say that we waited more than 1.5 years to sell it because we thought it would be a good moment where the balance is great between the complexity and the freshness. And it is a wine that is very complex and very special wine, since even if we are in Champagne, not far from Montagne de Reims, we don't have the characteristic of Montagne de Reims. We don't have the characteristic of Côte des Blancs, where you know Chardonnay is king, but we have really a characteristic of a very special Chardonnay, where you combine the complexity, the richness, the elegance and the salinity. And it is really the idea of a Clos, where you have an old story, a special climate and a special soil. So it is really the idea of a Clos to express a wine with a very strong identity.